It is my pleasure to introduce to you the senior White House correspondent for ABC News and a treasured Akiba alum from the graduating class of 1987, Jake Tapper.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me? I'm used to holding one of these, so I think I'm going to do that. Is it on? Thank you, Michael. That was very nice. Len and Lynn Barrack, Mrs. Levin, esteemed staff and faculty, devoted board of directors, assembled family and friends, wonderful alumni, and members of the class of 2012. Before I begin bestowing my wisdom, I'd like to note that in 1987, I wanted to be one of the 4 student speakers at my then Akiba Hebrew Academy graduation, and I was not chosen by my peers. So class of 2012, thank you for 25 years later allowing me to finally achieve one of my goals for senior year. It will look great on my college transcript. Mrs. Levin, perhaps you can add this to my permanent record? It couldn't hurt. Speaking of Mrs. Levin, I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to recognize and congratulate the idealistic, sweet young high school history teacher who walked into my classroom of jaded 12th grade brats more than a generation ago on her achievement in becoming your new head of school. I know you always say that you were so nervous that first year, but this does not surprise me at all. Somehow, 25 years later, you've not lost your idealism or your sweetness. You're a mensch. Congratulations on the well-deserved honor. So, members of the class of 2012, thank you for the honor of being your speaker this evening. I remember very, very well sitting in those very same seats. And as I recall, right now, all you can think about is nothing going on right here in this room. All you can think about is college or your year abroad and the fun and independence off in the distance or challenges in the Israeli army. It's just there over the horizon. You might not even be hearing the words I am speaking right at this very second. I could literally say anything. I could give you my bank code. I could tell you where Jimmy Hoffa is buried. I could tell you how to solve the Phillies' pitching problem. And if you're listening, I don't doubt that most of you, if not all of you, will forget everything I'm about to tell you. I can't even tell you who spoke at my high school graduation ceremony. Though I was not one of them, of course. If it's any consolation, my college graduation speaker was Elizabeth Dole, and she was even less memorable than that. It's hard to believe that a quarter century has passed since I grabbed my empty Naugahyde folder, brought it home, put it on my desk directly beneath my Janet Jackson and 1986 Chicago Bears posters, references that I'm sure must sound like ones to Cole Porter and the 1919 Black Sox. The thing is I constantly remind the young producers with whom I work, there are some things you pick up with age. As someone once carved on the wall of my fraternity basement bathroom, he who stays the longest learns the most. Now, that might not be 100% true. For instance, if your night ends with you carving something onto the wall of a fraternity basement bathroom, you might want to consider that your night took a wrong turn somewhere along the line. But it is without question that with age and experience, you learn some things, even if you learn them the hard way. With time, even the thickest wheel of cheese picks up a little flavor. I know that didn't make sense when I wrote it either. So I've thought a lot about what I would say tonight, and there are a lot of different speeches one can give. There's funny, there's altruistic, there's Judaic. But what I kept coming back to was the notion that maybe I could actually tell you something that might make a difference at one point in your lives. It's a crazy thought, I know, especially since you have learned so much at Barrack. Of this, I have no doubt. I know it myself firsthand. The academics are superlative. The teachers are first rate. The double curriculum grounds you in not just another language and worldview, but a set of ethics, of expectations of behavior, of instructions in right and wrong. The respect for pluralism about which Yaakov spoke will serve you well as it has served me. But I have to tell you a little secret. There are a few things they didn't tell you. Or to be more accurate, they told you these things, but you didn't hear them. So I will try again tonight with the 6 things I wish I had known at age 18 by Jacob Tadler, age 43. Now, the first one has to do with lashon hara, or gossip, idle chatter. And we do learn a lot in Judaism about lashon hara and why it's bad and how it's to be avoided. But some of the lessons about gossiping miss their mark. Now, this is what we're taught. The sages say that for 3 transgressions, one forfeits his position in heaven: murder, adultery, and idol worship. And that lashon hara is equivalent to all 3. And when we hear that, we say, come on. Murder and adultery is the same as lashon hara? Who believes that? But here's what the rabbis might not have acknowledged. Lashon hara is fun. Let's face it. Gossiping, bad-mouthing, snickering about other people's mess-ups. It's kind of what I do for a living. If it weren't fun, they wouldn't have to tell us not to do it. But I always felt like teaching us not to engage in idle gossip without acknowledging that it's enjoyable kind of misses the point. But here are the things you need to know about gossip. 1, it always gets back to the person you're gossiping about. I don't care if the person you were joking around with was your best BFF friend, or your sainted bubby, or your puppy. Somehow, the person you're gossiping about will hear about it. They will, because alliances shift, and friendships change, and people you thought were trustworthy are not, and your judgments will prove wrong. And this is the important lesson on lashon hara. Lashon hara hurts you. Forget that it might hurt the person that you're gossiping about. I'm assuming you've forgotten that because you're engaging in the lashon hara. But in college, at work, in your social circle, how you conduct yourself when you're talking about others will be held against you. Especially if you're talking about someone not as advantaged as you, in which case you look like a bully, or someone far better off than you, in which case you look jealous. So watch out. Lashon hara may not be as bad as murder, regardless of what was once said before electricity. But evil words do become demons, and they run out into the woods, and they will jump on you later. So create as few of them as you can. Here's the second lesson. David earlier mentioned Thoreau. Thoreau went into the woods because he wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. He wanted to make sure that when he had come to die, he did not discover that he had not lived. Now, Thoreau wanted to reduce life to its lowest terms. You do not have to go live next to Walden Pond and eat grubs and drink rainwater. But sucking out the marrow of life should be your plan. People get confused as to what sucking out the marrow of life means. It gets misinterpreted, largely because of the movie Dead Poets Society, that it means to be hedonistic, to drink and to smoke and to revel and to pursue that which is ephemeral and enjoyable, but for a split second, to gorge on junk food, the Doritos of life. That's not what it means. It means to experience life. In the summer of 1988, I had just completed my freshman year in college, and in the fall, I was going to study at the University of Tel Aviv with my friend Hillman. Hillman wrote to me at Camp Ramah, where I was a counselor, and proposed that we go to Europe for the month before we had to be at University of Tel Aviv. We could sleep in hostels, we could see Europe, we could backpack, and I did not do it. Why did I not do it? It wasn't because I couldn't afford to do it. I was lucky I could. I didn't do it because it was easier to not do it, because I was a little scared to do it, because I figured I had my whole life to do it. I was only 19 years old. But that was the wrong decision. I never had another chance to do that. And though I've been to Europe since, I will never again have that opportunity. The one I passed up because of sloth, inertia, and meekness. The chance to backpack through Europe, unencumbered, with a close friend, with no obligations at age 19, and here I am 24 years later telling you about it. Do not be meek. But don't misunderstand me. Again, sucking out the marrow of life is not just the pursuit of a good time in Europe, of fun, of the experience of being selfish. It's the experience of trying something new, of seeing an opera, of not immediately rejecting that which is unfamiliar. Do not think that sucking out the marrow means pursuing the easiest path, doing what is comfortable. It often means the opposite. That's what I think Thoreau was after. It means hurdling, trying, aspiring. It means effort. I don't know where you're going to meet your future spouse, but I'm pretty sure it won't be in your apartment. I don't know where you will have your greatest adventures, but it won't be watching TV. You will not figure out your passions by never trying anything new. Sucking out the marrow means learning. For years you've been studying both to learn and for the following reasons that have remained unacknowledged. To get good grades, to get into a good college so you can have fun and impress people. That's part of what our society teaches us is the idea of good grades. It's the ultimate achievement. Now that this whole getting into college thing is done for most of you, let me tell you something. It's not. There are probably very few adults in this room who don't envy you right now, and it's not just because gravity has yet to find you. By the way, it will. It's largely because you get to spend the next 4 or more years focusing on nothing other than learning. French, Spanish, Hebrew, Italian, advanced Hebrew, great books, the Bible, whatever. Pursue adventure. Intellectual, physical, geographical, professional. Challenge yourself. And your parents will be happy to hear about my third lesson, to which I am now led naturally. Jerry Seinfeld, who was a comedian with a hit television show when I was a young man, used to have a routine about Saturday Night Jerry versus Sunday Morning Jerry. Saturday Night Jerry could go out and drink all he wanted, have fun, stay out late. The hangover, the exhaustion, all the repercussions for the stupid things he did the night before, that was Sunday Morning Jerry's problem. As if Sunday Morning Jerry was a completely different guy. Now, there is very little I can say that will stop you from engaging in behavior over the next few years that is moronic, idiotic, irresponsible, unconstitutional, self-destructive, illegal, and scandalous in many ways. Your parents have tried, God knows, as have your teachers, but let me just say this. I swear to you, regardless of how you feel right now, you are not immune from the laws of nature, society, and basic physics. Right, Mr. Doherty? Police make arrests. Cars careen off the road. Contagion spread. Eggs fertilize. Alcohol poisons. And you are not Saturday Night Jerry. There is no such person. Decisions you make now will affect you going forward. If you don't think people will stop talking about stupid things you did when you were 18, take my word for it. They will be. Barack Obama's marijuana use in high school is in a new biography about him. Use is a modest term for it. An incident about Mitt Romney when he was in high school allegedly cutting the hair off a student who was different, who might have been gay. That was in the Washington Post. Respect others, respect yourself, respect the gift you've been given. I will say, as is my obligation, that one should not break the law and drink alcohol before you turn 21, but I'm not naive enough to think my admonition will matter. But let me at least invoke the name of David Wolfson, a nice Jewish boy in my fraternity who was killed drunk driving my senior year, and take a second to think about what that young man might tell you about his feelings of indestructibility were he here, Zichrono Livracha. You have mostly led a sheltered life until now, and God willing, it will remain that way as long as possible. But I remember thinking this way. This is all just a goof. My life doesn't actually start till much later. This is just high school. This is just college. No, wrong. This is it. It started. Do not trust this. This is to the women. Do not trust the smooth-talking jock who offers you a tour of the fraternity. Do not do that. That is a bad idea. Do not do that. This is to everyone else, this is for you. Don't give the friendly upperclassman your credit card number. Don't try that strange pill. Don't take a sip from that punch handed to you by that seemingly friendly but ultimately shady dude at the party. You have your spider senses that tingle when you know something is wrong. Trust your spider senses. That radioactive spider bit you for a reason. Indiana Jones had his whip. James Bond has his gadgets. You have your brains and good sense. Use them. Which brings me to number 4. Now, I know you have morals. They're there because of your parents, your school, your synagogue, your faith, and you. They're there inside of you. They're the feeling you get when someone does something you know is wrong. Cheating on a test, shoplifting, lying. It's that oogie feeling. You know it. But morality is not the same thing as moral courage. And don't confuse them. Morality, I know you have. I don't know if you have moral courage. You're only 17, 18 years old. Moral courage is an intellectual and spiritual muscle, and like any muscle, it needs to be exercised in order to be maintained, and especially in order to be strong enough for when you need it most. There will come a time when you need moral courage. It might not be for generations to come, but the moral exercises you do now will prepare you for that moment. It may be a temptation of the flesh. It might have to do with money. It might have to do with business. It might have to do with friendship. You read about moral failings in the newspaper. You see the stories on the news. Tiger Woods, executives from Wall Street, presidents of the United States. Tomorrow on Good Morning America, I'll have a new one for you. The small failings you permit yourself now. The racist joke you don't protest. The mistreatment of a powerless individual at the hands of a bully. The theft of a test that you can condone or participate in. Plagiarism, petty theft, those misdemeanors you commit or you condone, that's you exercising the wrong muscle. That's the muscle that allows you to ignore everything you know to be right. And these tiny decisions matter. When you face those small choices in the days ahead, exercise your moral courage. Think of this room full of people who love you and support you, and be filled with the confidence that we know you can do it. Because those small acts end up meaning something. They end up putting you on a path. And then when the real challenge comes, and it will come, you will be prepared. 5th point. You've lived in a world in which, believe it or not, you've been surrounded entirely by nice people. I know it has not always felt that way. I remember feeling that it wasn't that way. But you have to take my word for it. The meanest kid at Barrack Academy is a mensch. The cruelest, worst teacher cares about you so much. Your parents, in all likelihood, have surrounded you in a warm, protective cocoon of unconditional love and support and praise. Now, college is going to be very enjoyable. I don't want to disabuse you of that notion, but the edges are a little rougher. It will still probably be the most purely enjoyable 4 years of your life, but there will be jerkier jerks there with more freedom to be jerky, because unlike your teachers, professors do not care how nice people are to each other. It's not in their job description. Now, I know you're all going to be nice, because that lesson goes without saying, but I want to caution you that from this point forward, that niceness is just not as common. It's not required. Now, I know you know the story in the Talmud. A man comes to Rabbi Hillel and says he'll convert to Judaism if he could teach him the whole Torah quickly while he's standing on one foot. And Hillel says, what is hateful to yourself, do not do to your fellow man. That's the whole Torah. The rest is just commentary. Go and study it. I know you know that story because they taught it to me like 1,000 times. So I know you know it's important to be nice, that the golden rule is key. What I want you to know is that you should not expect that everyone else is going to abide by that same rule. The world does not turn on niceness. Now, generally, yes, you'll be able to avoid the not nice people in your social circles. But elsewhere, you can't. No one's going to give you a job to be nice. No one's going to let you into their club to be nice, or give you an internship, or date you, or allow you to take their class to be nice. They just aren't. Don't get depressed. Here comes the turn. Now that you have this knowledge, you're better off. Because, well, let me give you the answer, how it works. It took me a few years to decide what I wanted to do for a living. I was around 26 when I decided maybe I should try journalism. I had so many ideas and so much enthusiasm, I figured I could write 2 or 3 good clips, get some freelance stories under my belt, and then the Washington Post would immediately hire me. It doesn't work like that. And here's the lesson I want you to understand, now that you have this information. The Washington Post, or the law firm where you want to intern, or the Smith for Congress campaign, or so-and-so temple, they will hire you, not to be nice. They will hire you because you have something that they want. Don't be depressed by the fact that the professional world ultimately operates according to self-interest. Now you are so much ahead of everyone else now that you have this information. Accept it, learn it, do not take it personally. Have that something that they want. Energy, enthusiasm, smart observations, a great work ethic, persistence, talent. Be this thing that they selfishly want to use to fulfill their own needs. And this feeds into my final point. Class of 2012, believe in yourself. Do not be discouraged when it takes the world a few times before they recognize what you know you have. When you do figure out what it is that you love, whether it's the Talmud or ballet, acting or agriculture, the military or the piano, plunge in. Now that sounds like obvious advice, but it isn't. I love my job. I didn't figure out that I wanted to be a journalist until a little bit late in the game. I didn't get my first-time job in journalism, full-time job in journalism, until I was 29. I should note, for the parents out there, I lived on my own, I had a job. No one was paying my bills but me. But when opportunity knocked in the form of the editor of the Washington City paper, it came with a substantial pay cut. But I took the chance. I grabbed the opportunity as fast as I could, and I'm so happy that I did. It was not the easy path. I know someone, a close friend of mine, who had a dream, and he would have been amazing at it. He would be a star today, but he chose the easier path. He never followed his heart. He never even took the chance of following it. He will always be asking himself, what if? All of us grown-ups know people like this. They had dreams, but the dreams required hard work and risk, and many of them took the safer route. Most people on the planet did not have the opportunities that I had that you have. Most in this room have. But we do. And with that comes the chance to take chances, responsible chances, but chances nonetheless. Take the chance on yourself. One of my friends in the Citadel, 1987, had a yearbook quote, "Don't you understand, if you give up your dreams, you die?" She attributed that quote to the Little Prince, Le Petit Prince. And I was excited to relay that to you because I was going to say it in French in honor of my departed French teacher, Monsieur Outler. I wanted to say it in French and impress you all. It turns out the quote is actually from the movie Flashdance. So not really as special. And you don't die when you give up your dreams. But part of you does. I've seen it in my friends. And I don't want to see it in you when I come back here in 25 years. Dr. Seuss's first book, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, was rejected 27 times before he found a publisher. The head of NBC worried that the TV show Seinfeld was too Jewish to succeed. It said that Fred Astaire's first screen test came back, can't act, can't sing, balding, can dance a little. I said this to somebody earlier. Rejection is part of the deal. Listen to the criticism that is constructive, but do not surrender. The woman who plays Mercedes Jones on Glee failed her audition for American Idol. Glee itself was rejected by every network until Fox got it. Class of 2012. It was a different school in a different time when Sir Winston Churchill reminded a different group of young people that surrender is not an option. Never give in. Never give in. Never, 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 never. In nothing great or small, large or petty. Never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force. Never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. Now, the world was facing a different challenge then, but you will face your own difficulties, your own enemies. You will have tough times and fun times, and I know that you will emerge victorious. Jack M. Barrack, Hebrew Academy class of 2012, never give in. Be great, be smart, be tough, take the harder and more meaningful path, suck out the marrow of life, follow your dreams, make us proud, and for God's sake, call your mother.